left of the tram is most of the museum's collection of helicopters. Initially developed in the 1930s, helicopters are designed to take off and land vertically, thus eliminating the need for large open areas. They have found extensive use in the military, carrying troops, cargo, and as armed gunships. Civilian operators have also found them valuable for many different jobs, including law enforcement, search and rescue, air ambulances, firefighting, and cargo shipments. On the left side of the tram is a green helicopter with a red cross on the nose. This is the Bell UH-1 Huey, which is one of the most widely used and popular helicopters. The Huey was introduced by the U.S. Army during the Vietnam War, and it became one of the symbols of the American involvement in the war. This one is marked as a medical evacuation aircraft responsible for taking wounded soldiers from the battlefield to hospitals. The use of these aircraft saved the lives of many soldiers who would have died before they could reach treatment had the med evac helicopters not been available. One of the largest heavy lift helicopters developed for the United States Army is on the right side of the tram and is known as the Sky Crane. In the 1960s, the Army was looking for a heavy lift helicopter capable of carrying large objects such as artillery pieces, small vehicles, and large amounts of other cargo. This helicopter is capable of carrying 27,000 pounds. Since their retirement from the military in the early 90s, the Sky Crane has seen extensive use in fighting forest fires and in the logging and construction industries. This next helicopter on the left might look familiar. It is the Bell HH-1N. This is generally called the Twin Huey because they were upgraded to have two engines and a larger, longer cabin than the original Huey that we just saw. This helicopter served as a VIP transport for the U.S. Marine Corps. In May 1987, it carried Ronald Reagan during the G7 summit in Venice, Italy. And in 1990, it was converted to the HH-1N. The VIP interior was removed, and it was assigned to the Marine Corps Air Station in Yuma, Arizona. Here it worked as a search and rescue helicopter for both military gunnery ranges and civilian rescues in the intermediate area until it was retired in 2020. The green plane on our left is the Piper PA-48 Enforcer. If you're thinking that looks like the World War II P-51 Mustang, then you're not far off. Design work for a lightweight ground attack aircraft began in 1968 based on the P-51 Mustang. Cavalier Aircraft Company modified two existing Mustangs for this purpose, but the Air Force wasn't interested in the design. Cavalier sold the plans to Piper Aircraft, and Piper completely redesigned the plane. While the plane you see here looks similar to the Mustang, it shares less than 10% of its parts with the World War II fighter. Piper produced two prototypes, one of which you see here, but the Air Force still did not pursue the concept, and both prototypes were retired by 1984. the right side of the tram, we see the McDonnell Douglas FA-18 Hornet. These are in the colors of the Blue Angels, blue and yellow. The Hornet is currently one of the fighters used by both the U.S. Navy and Marine Corps. They have been in service since the early 80s, and later versions are expected to remain in the use for the foreseeable future. This one flew with the U.S. Navy Blue Angels acrobatic team for several years before being retired in 2013. The group of airliners to our right are the Harriers. This is a collection of various versions of vertical takeoff and landing jet fighter. They are the only three types of vertical lift aircraft ever built. Originally designed by Hawker Aviation in the United Kingdom, the Harrier was adopted by the British military and the U.S. Marine Corps in the 1970s. Four rotating nozzles under the wings direct the exhaust from the engine downward for vertical flight. The silver aircraft in the middle of the row is one of the experimental Kestrel prototypes tested in 1964 that led to the first production of Harriers in 1969. The other aircraft, all of which were built in England, served in the British Royal Navy, Air Force, or with the United States Marine Corps. On the right is the 390th Memorial Museum. They have a restored World War II B-17 flying fortress displayed inside, as well as artifacts from the 390th Bomb Group. While the museum operates separately from the Pima Air and Space Museum, admission is free for all visitors, and you're more than welcome to walk back to this museum at the end of the tour. Going to the left side of the tram are two later versions of the F-86 Sabre, the United States' first swept-wing fighter jet that was put into service during the Korean War to compete with Soviet-designed MiG-15. The H version with the black and yellow tail markings features a larger fuselage and updated weaponry. It was also the last non-radar equipped Sabre to be put into service. The left version with the blue and white tail markings was a radar-equipped interceptor version of the Sabre. Notice the different shape of the nose, which accommodates the radar equipment. Also on your left, you'll see a Cessna 172 Skyhawk. This aircraft has N12774 painted on the side of the plane. We want to point this aircraft out because it was the most produced aircraft in history. Cessna delivered the first production model in 1956, and as of 2018, more than 44,000 of them have been built and are still in production today. The next collection of aircraft you'll see on the left of the tram are VIP transports. These aircraft are used to provide transportation to high-ranking military officers and government officials. They are generally commercial airliners and have been fitted with modified executive seating. The first two in this collection have both used the call sign Air Force One, meaning they have both been used to carry United States presidents. The first Air Force One is the Douglas VC-118A Liftmaster. This plane is based on the Douglas DC-6 airliner and is the propeller-driven aircraft to be assigned as the primary aircraft of the President of the United States. It served both Presidents Kennedy and Johnson. While both men preferred to fly on the larger, faster, jet-powered VC-137, like the one we'll see next, this aircraft was kept because many airports at the time were too small for big jets. So this smaller aircraft was important to the Air Force One fleet. The next is the military adaptation of the Boeing 707 airliner, which the Air Force called the VC-137B. This one was introduced to the Presidential Aircraft Fleet in 1959 and is the second of the 5 VC-137s to serve the executive branch. During most of its service life, it was used to carry large groups of VIPs